Hey everyone, Lazy Panty here, and I'm back with another story time. I literally have been sitting here for 10 minutes trying to find something for you guys because I swear I don't fabricate any of my stories and I don't like to do fake ones because I could not fake one if I wanted to. So I've been just here sitting and thinking, okay, what is the story I can think of? And this is the one I came up with because I do have stories, but not ones that are like gonna be 8 to 9 minutes long or, a good chunk of your time so that you can relax, get into it, and really get in the atmosphere of the story itself. So here I am now with an actual story time. So this story time is about the time that I was put on a strike system and I didn't even know about it. So I hope you guys enjoy this story time. Anyways, let's dive on in. So at this point in time, I've been working for a little bit at this restaurant. It's not very popular. It's not like Burrito Ding or something like that. It's more family owned and it's very local here. But I was a host at this point because also I was underage. So even if I wanted to do serving or something like that, I couldn't do it because of my age. And a lot of people came here too. A lot of folks were coming into this restaurant all the time on Fridays and holidays and Saturdays, and they would always have events and bands open up for them at night. And during the summer, or at least in the hotter weather, they would have people playing during the day outside because they had like a porch area. But it was still cool nonetheless. But this is way before that. This is like in between December and January of last year. Not this January and December, but the one before that. So some things came up during October, and I said, hey, I really can't work today. I'm not going to be host material for you. I'm not going to be professional. I'm going to be very zoned out, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, no, we really advise that you come into work. After explaining what was going on, I was like, oh. Okay, I see how it is. So I did not show up. I did not show up that day just to prove my point that, hey, I'm human too. I'm not going to be used, and I'm not going to let you guys step over me because I have something going on, and you won't let me go. So the next day, I get pulled into the office, and the manager at the time, let's call him Joe, because I feel like calling him Joe. At the time, Joe was one out of the three managers that were running the place. Everyone had their own section to deal with, and he was dealing with the hosts. So he brings me up on the office and he starts to talk to me and he's like, hey, why didn't you come into work this day? Blah, 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 blah. And then I explain, he's like, I understand, I went through the same thing, but I still went to work. I still did this. I still did that, but I understand. And my argument was, if you understand, then you understand why I don't feel I was ready or I was host material, especially because I was only 17 at the time. I wasn't really grown at all. I was still developing. I was still dealing with things, and I couldn't deal it with a adult mindset. I wasn't mature enough to deal with it in a way where I can just go into work. But yeah, he gave me a whole like 20-minute talking to, and after that it was just there, and there was tension for some time. I really didn't like him, and I don't know how he felt about me. I didn't care. I still don't care, but that's besides the point now, because now we're gonna forward to about 2 months now. So we're jumping from October all the way to near the end of December. Now at this point, I'm actually in Florida to visit some of my family, and they surprised us by letting us go to Universal Studios. If you guys don't know, that's like the equivalent to Disney World, but instead it's like Minions, Harry Potter, Transformers, Simpsons. It's more like TV shows and movies you've seen. I know that's what Disney does as well, but it's like their own stuff. But if you've seen like the Universal logo before a movie starts, basically those movies. But it was really cool. It was actually a really cool experience I had. The robe and the wand were really expensive, but I spent my money on it because it was worth it. And I still have it with me to this day. And it was just a fun memory to have. It was something that I will remember for a long time, especially spending time with my family. And other people I don't get to see very often were down there as well to visit. But yeah, so in the midst of all of that, I started to pack up, and then it was time to go home, and I was just exhausted and I was ready to go back. But at the same time, I wasn't, because Florida, it was actually cold, but it wasn't freezing cold. It wasn't snowing. It was just like wear a sweater and a hoodie. But when you flew back to where I was, it's winter, it's freezing cold. You need a winter jacket. Like, you had to be prepared for the weather to change just like that. It was going to change tremendously because it just does that. If you live where I live, everybody understands that. But after all that, I came on my flight. It was 4 hours long. I was exhausted. I was ready to get off the plane. and I was satisfied with the fact that I was finally back at home and I could go back to my bed and sleep in peace. And I remembered that this was on a Friday, and you're gonna know exactly why in a moment. So then the next day, I wake up, I'm going to hang out at my friend's house, whatever. And so she picks me up with her mom, and we drive to her house and hang out. And we're just watching TV shows, killing time, hanging out, doing what we usually do. Nothing out of the ordinary, just vibing out. Then all of a sudden, I get Jake. If you guys remember, he was in the break-in story. He was actually calling me, and he called me numerous times. Numerous times. And not only that, I had Jack also calling me numerous times as well, all spamming me. And I just ignored them until, at a certain point, I was like, okay, fine. I need to figure out what this is because this is getting really, really on my nerves. And they call me and they said, hey, where are you at? I said, what do you mean? It's Saturday. And they're like, yeah, we have our New Year's buffet. And I was like, okay, what does that matter? And he goes, well, you were scheduled. And I said, it's a Saturday. I don't work Saturdays. That's the one day out of all the week that I asked for the day off. And they're like, yeah, well, they want you to come in. I said, no, I'm not going to come in on a day that I'm not going to work because I don't do Saturdays. I don't work Saturdays. You shouldn't hold it against me to begin with, especially knowing that I'm not coming in on a Saturday. I said, look, the only day I want off, even while being hired, the only day I want off is Saturdays. That's it. That's all I want. After that, you can book me whenever you need me. And so they're like, well, Joe's not going to like this. I said, yeah, well, he shouldn't have scheduled me on a Saturday knowing I do not work Saturdays. And so it repeats again. And so I came into work the next day and he said, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay, great, whatever. And so we sat at this table this time instead of at the office like last time. He's like, look, I scheduled you to be here yesterday and you weren't. And by the way, he wouldn't let me talk on either of these times. And he just kept talking and talking and talking, not at all trying to hear me out, trying to understand of where I'm coming from. And so he's like, you didn't show up to work when you were scheduled. That's irresponsible, blah, blah, blah. You have responsibilities. You need to own up to them, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and this is your second strike. And again, he wouldn't let me respond. But in my mind, I'm like, second strike? What? What does he mean by a second strike? Why wasn't I told about the first strike to begin with? And so he goes on this rant about it. And it was just so frustrating. Like, I was too mixed up in the idea of, you put me on a strike system and you didn't think to tell me until the second time, especially when it was invalid the second time. Like, what do you expect me to do? You schedule me on Saturday, a day I said, look, this is the one day I want out of the week just to myself and what I want off. After that, you can book me any other time. Like, no, I can't do that for you. I'm not going to do that for you. Like, I feel like you're disrespecting me if you're just saying, oh yeah, whatever, I don't care. I'm going to book you anyways. Like, why are you going to do that? And so then I was on edge for months and months. And during my time there, it was just so toxic and it was so gossipy. And it was just like a mini high school in there and I hated it. So I left after 11 months and I'm at my new job now. And there's probably more story times I have relating to this place, but this is the one I'm going to end with for now. Moral of the story, you should stick up for yourself. Always. I know I got some consequences with it, but in the end, I really did get away with being lucky and not getting fired. And if there's problems with your management or something relating to your job, that's when you call the higher ups or corporate. And I'm saying that to anybody, especially people that are underage or minors, because if you saw my last story time with Burrito Ding and why I left, then you guys understand that I didn't know what was okay and what was not, that I was being taken advantage of at points. So guys, just be careful and remember that you are not alone. And if you need to, ask for help, you can, especially when it comes to work. But I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. There is also a playlist of all of these crazy story times I have. I hope you guys enjoy this one. I'll see you guys next time. Good night and goodbye. Strike one. Oh no, you didn't come into work when you don't even need to. Strike two.